The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.
When we are back.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. It's Wednesday, September 10th. And today is oh, Dale, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. This is a blast from the past for you, buddy. I hope you're ready. It's National TV Dinner Day. Isn't that classic? Isn't that
yeah.
Classic
they've
American?
They've gotten better with age. They used to be really crappy, but they've gotten better.
I mean, you remember like the peach dessert? You know what I mean? The cinnamon, peach, yeah. Oh man, you know. And then they had the brownie.
Mm-hmm.
That was like always seemed to get like overcooked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. I'm old enough to remember.
You're old enough to remember. Amazing. Oh man. It's also National Swap Ideas Day today. Yeah.
People still talk about ideas anymore. They just point fingers and call each other names.
I mean, I have all kinds of great ideas every day, Dale. It's, you know what I mean? I express all of my amazing ideas on this show every day.
Well, you know. I know that you express opinions. Well, you know, whether they're amazing or whether they're ideas or not, guess that's open for debate. But
let me tell you something, Dale. Anything that's coming out from below of this head of hair is definitely without a doubt amazing. I mean, look how amazing the hair is alone. So anything coming from underneath it has to be just as equally as amazing, Dale.
Well, when you tell your therapist that, they write down delusions of grandeur.
See, I don't have a therapist, and nor would I ever have a therapist, because you know I don't believe in it. Yeah,
everybody needs one.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Delusions of grandeur, Dale.
I have my own. Yeah. I have my own mental stability. I don't need someone to, you know, tell me whatever. I have plenty of friends that just tell me all kinds of things all the time. Anyway, they live in Delululemon land.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So thank you to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms, you guys. And we are kicking it off today with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their lives back on track after they've been victims of the track. Not to mention, she's also America's sweetheart. Oh, it's Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
Why didn't you throw in there Jason Beck's personal therapist?
Because I don't have a therapist.
Oh.
He won't admit that you're the therapist, but you're helping him along, Jenny Beth. You know that.
Oh, God.
I'm always here for you, buddy. You know that, Jace.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And vice versa.
Yeah, you guys are all. I love the world you guys live in.
All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of living, this is not what this article is about, because what happens when a social equity permit holder dies? They cross the rainbow bridge and all dogs go to heaven. No, I'm kidding.
Oh boy. Oh boy. There's that rainbow bridge again.
Illinois is staring down a thorny question no one planned for when legal weed went live. What happens to a cannabis social equity retail permit when the qualifying owner dies? And honestly, a lot of states have figured this out. There's succession clauses and there's regulation for what happens when they die, but that's okay. The case driving it is John Rushing, a 73-year-old Marine Corps veteran from Palatine. He was the qualifying social equity principal for Project Equity Illinois, Inc. The company's permits were used to open Cookies branded dispensaries in Bloomington, Peoria, and Pontoon Beach. Each of those stores later received a $240,000 direct forgivable loan from the state in August of 2024. Rushing died in December. And now the status of those licenses and who can legally run those shops is unclear. Social equity rules are supposed to diversify ownership and ensure communities harmed by prohibition share in the industry's upside. But succession isn't spelled out. Some experts say a successor must also meet social equity criteria. Others read Illinois law to allow a sale to anyone, equity qualified or not. Regulators aren't commenting on specific licenses. Illinois launched adult use sales in January 2020, building on a limited medical market that helped seed big MSOs like Cresco and GTI. The state's equity rollout took longer, and in some cases, applicants died before awards, which automatically disqualified those applicants. However, this is the first high-profile instance of a qualifying licensee dying after the stores opened. It's comparatively broad in Illinois on how equity qualification works. An individual can qualify by living 5 or of the past 10 years in a disproportionately impacted area or through a cannabis-related arrest, conviction tied to themselves, a parent, child, or spouse, which I disagree with that. If it wasn't you, like, fuck off. Companies with 10-plus full-time employees can also qualify if over half the workers meet those criteria. Also, whatever. The bigger fight ahead is scholars warn that as programs mature, transferability will be the next battleground, and some predict states could declare social equity permits no longer needed within 5 to 10 years, either due to shifting politics or a shrinking pool of eligible applicants. So we will see what happens in Illinois. Maybe they should look over here because you do need to transfer this to a qualifying social equity applicant. Sorry. Typically, it can go to your spouse, and by Illinois' rules, Mr. Rushing's, I believe his last name was Rushing, I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Rushing's wife would qualify because her husband qualified. So I don't know what's going to happen to this, but you guys need to look at other regulations before you start writing this stuff, because there should always be a succession protocol for death or incapacity of a direct owner. So I'll throw it back to you guys. Dale, I definitely want your opinion.
Well, this is one of those problems that not a lot of people really thought about. They were just rushing to get their hands on an equity license. And here in California, you have to get local qualification, and they have another layer of requirements. The state really doesn't care. You just have to pass their background checks. So here in California, I have never seen one of these where the social equity person died after being granted the license. But inside of the corporations I set up, we try to deal with succession as best we can, and leave it as broad as you can to go back to the board to nominate somebody, go to the locals in the state to make sure that they are going to be qualified as an owner and as a social equity owner. But none of this is really well thought out. And it's one of the problems when you bring in an entirely new area of endeavor in an industry that has no history of it. Now you have to sort of, chart these waters as they come up. This is going to be an interesting one because I'm not an expert in Illinois law, especially the cannabis part of this, because it gets complicated. No one attorney can keep all this shit in their head. It's just not possible. But you should plan this stuff out, know the regulations, what's required to qualify, and try to build it into your contracts as best you can. But good luck trying to figure this stuff out ahead of time.
Well, and neither can one lone licensing girl, but I did do some digging. And so
digging.
Yep, Illinois was stupid and did not specifically address death and secession, which is not smart. But If the qualified social equity applicant transfers, sells, or grants their cannabis business within 5 years of its issuance to someone who does not qualify as a social equity applicant, so I guess technically it could go to someone else. Here's the problem. All right. They need to pay into the Cannabis Business Development Fund immediately amounts covering any fees that have been waived because of the social equity applicant status, any outstanding loan amounts from the funds owed by the sellers, which is why we addressed that each of those three businesses had taken out $240,000 was the amount, loan. So that's a lot of money that needs to be paid back. And the full amount of any grants received. So any money that has come and has benefited that license on behalf of this gentleman being a social equity applicant for this license to be taken over by someone who is not would immediately be paid in full and owing for the to continue operating.
That's totally ridiculous.
I know I'm floating in outer space right now because there's camera problem, but I gotta disagree. I don't know, like once it's in and you do the time, if I received ever an equity license, and I feel like I would qualify on several levels, when I title that to whoever I decide gets my license next, I'd like you to mind your own damn business and stay out of mine because I'm building generational wealth. And what I got is what I got. And if you didn't get it, tough cookies for you. But that's also why I think these social equity programs typically fail, because they try to control nuance that is truly unpredictable. This is why, we're all over here in the hemp states, the best equity is freedom and not having limited licensing.
Well, I have a question. In Illinois, if you have a regular license, not a social equity license, and you die, aren't you allowed to leave that to a successor? Aren't you allowed to name a successor and leave that?
Illinois doesn't deal with, doesn't deal with succession at all in their regulations. So you can transfer over the license. It's saying you can transfer it to whoever the fuck you want to transfer over to, right?
Easy with all the F-bombs.
Because,
Yeah.
You want me to finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
God damn, everybody's going to interrupt me this morning for ridiculousness. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Yes, so Illinois is not specifically addressing death and whatever. That's annoying for me, by the way. Illinois did not think of that. But at the end of the day, you can transfer it to whoever you fucking want to transfer it to. You just aren't going to get the fucking benefits that you get as a social equity applicant, nor should you, because those are for social equity applicants.
Yeah, I mean, if you're my kid, though, and I'm your mom, and I had a shitty year while I was raising you.
Qualify as Shaun, if you listen to the article that would airs,
settle down. I'm telling you, these programs
you just came in screaming and interrupted me. Let me finish my thought.
I did not come in screaming. You are so hot. Good Lord.
All right. Anyhow, moving right along. So through the article, it clearly said that people who are the child, the spouse, or the parent of a qualified social equity applicant under Illinois law would still qualify as a social equity applicant. So if you transferred it to your kids and you were a social equity applicant, they would count as a social equity applicant. Now, if you sell it to your partner, which is the bigger issue in this, because this is a cookies branded store. This is 3 cookies branded stores. So what I'm assuming the problem here is that Cookies real estate, or whichever cookies branded entity is trying to be the partner here, is trying to come over and assume full operations and ownership of these 3 cookies branded stores. At which point, that's why we're also mentioning the $240,000 hanging over each store in what would have been a forgivable loan, any grants that have been taken, et cetera, because at that point, that would have been a transfer of ownership under the partnership agreement to a non-social entity equity and to a non-social equity entity, and to a corporation partner. At which point, fuck them, Cookies. Open up your pocket, big burn dog, and pull out $240,000 to give back to all three of those and whatever else. Because yes, if your social equity applicant dies, and that's usually why we're discussing these articles, is because they're not trying to toss it to their kids. They're not trying to create generational wealth, which it creates generational debt usually, is because the corporate partners will come in and try to take over these interests. And that's not what you do. Because if you did, then everybody would just go get a 95-year-old who did 10 years in prison and say, hey, you want to help me get this license?
Yeah, but if they want to sell their license and pass that cash on, let it be. I just don't like the meddling. It's too much meddling. It's too,
Well,
I agree. For a large company like Cookies, they should probably pay into doing, do some good, do some social cause work as a major corporate company with lots of pockets. And then also those Cookies partnership deals, those are also special and unique deals. They don't always fall just to Cookies. I don't know about this one in particular, but I still don't like people fucking with my money after I'm dead. If I sell my license and that's supposed to go somewhere else, or I want my kids to be able to sell it, I want them to have the rights everyone else does when it comes to property and transfer. And if I got a leg up, thank you. It's because the bar, they kept moving that goalpost and kept putting us down, so we weren't able to. And I don't want any of my people to have to pay tax on that. I'm sorry. I feel the same way about inheritance taxes. That's why
this is the thing. This is the thing. This is the thing. These people, they knew what time it was when they signed up for this license. Am I correct on that, Dale? I'm sure that this was outlined in the paperwork when they applied for the license, and so when they got it. So if you don't want to deal with what the consequences are, don't apply for the license in the first place. But I'm going to say, as an overall general policy, if you receive something, it generally is supposed to be yours as an asset, and that you should be able to transfer that to whoever you like for whatever reason. Upon a death, there shouldn't be it only can go to this person, only can go to this person. This, in order to go to this person, it needs to meet this qualifying conditions and wada. And at the same time too, it should be at the total discretion of the deceased. Now, when it would come into a whole nother matter, Dale, is if they didn't leave a will or trust, or leave that asset in a will and trust, and then it went to a probate situation, then I could see all of these things being a discussion and a topic point. But other than that, it should be just the total right of whoever is the deceased individual, whatever their dying last wishes were.
Which is totally fine, but it doesn't mean that it transfers over the money, the monetary portion that you've been given because you were a social equity applicant, right? So if I say, hey, I'm going to give it to Dale Schafer, attorney at law's office, and Dale's just a regular ass attorney, Dale's not gone to prison, Dale's not Dale, right? Then yeah, Dale doesn't necessarily get all the benefits, whatever, but I can transfer it over to him. It's the issue right now at hand is the monetary sums that need to be paid into the Cannabis Development Fund, because those are to enrich people who been harmed by the war on drugs, not specifically just business. I have a problem with that too, because they shouldn't be asking for this money back afterwards, especially when this money has been spent. As long as they can show that this money was spent. And now, if they had this money sitting in a bank account and it was just sitting there collecting interest, I could see the state wanting it back. But if the money's been spent on the business, the money has been spent on the business, and it shouldn't all of a sudden become a debt just because the person passed away. That's just total ridiculousness. So then
unless it's an assumption of a loan. Unless it's an assumption of a loan or grant payouts over time with future money, like they're doing some kind of 4-year deal, which I don't think the equity programs are that well baked, but maybe I could be wrong. I don't live in Chicago. But unless it's the assumption of a loan, which has its own rules, this is like bananas to me, because we're taking 1 year's asset or profitability or margin, whatever, however it came, grant, and you're taxing them like retroactively. What other doors are we opening with that? Like, no. Money goes forward. We're not going backwards. What else will we start to pay retroactively? I don't think so.
Well, then we'll all go get a 95-year-old that has a cannabis conviction, open up a license, and hope that ticker stops ticking in the first year and take that over.
Man, you know what? I think the Joneses.
That's the Anna McCall Smith model of social equity.
I think the Joneses are gonna find a whole new different type of applicant pool. They're gonna start going to nursing homes and to find their applicants now for these social equity licenses. But you have any final? Hold on, Shaun. Dale, you have any final comments on this before we move on?
Well, I do, because I've done this before.
Go ahead.
Okay. And when I set up the business that's going to be 61 or 51% owned by the social equity person, I typically put in restricted rights to sell stock.
Yeah.
Okay. You just don't get to go dump it. And this is with my client sitting there, negotiating on the other side. If you're married, I want a written statement from the spouse that they understand that this is, restricted stock.
Mm-hmm.
I want belt and suspenders, because this is such a brand new area of law. If you don't have every little T crossed and I dotted, you're going to go back out to general probate law. And then these businesses will be thrown into turmoil. Typically find these in the fine print. And I've been hired to come in and look at what I call shit sandwiches. Somebody's been roped into one of these deals.
Mm-hmm.
Start reading the fine print and you go, all you are is a figurehead. You have no rights. If something happens, you're just cut loose and you're gone out there. And it's one of the problems with this entire area of law. Nobody knows how to do it yet. There's a lot of good intentions, but the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah,
if you don't have an area of established law, it will fall to probate law. And as you said, Jason, if someone dies without a will and they're intestate, they start dragging everybody out of the woodwork. But if there's restricted stock and you've got to offer to the corporation first, and then they will compensate the people who had the right to the stock based upon par values and things like that, it just gets into the weeds a lot. As Jenny Beth pointed out, they're giving out money with strings attached. Okay, and if you're not reading the fine print, this is why I have malpractice insurance, because I'm old and sometimes, reading shit 4 or 5 times, you go, what the did that really say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But this is very complicated. And right now there are social equity licenses in California for sale. If you please come in and pay off my loans I have from the local jurisdictions who gave me money to set up my business, and I'm fucking tired, I'm out of here, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a mess right now. No one has an answer.
Yeah, and those social equity transfers of licenses also require certain things like length of time in business. The social equity applicant often has to stay on until that length of business required is over, or it depends on the municipality and it depends on how they've addressed that. But the reason that these things exist is because social equity licenses were meant for social equity applicants, and that's the end of the day.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I just think that system has failed them. And then my other question is, they said you only had to live in an affected area for 5 years. Let's hypothetically said we got social equity in Austin. That means everybody who just gentrified East Austin still qualifies. So these bars that we're setting are like very high, but not that high, actually. I don't know if this is all kind of leaving it to opinion and arbitrary decision making on who qualifies and who doesn't is a horrible idea. We need to free this market. And then everybody can have equity because everybody gets a free shot. Everybody gets a shot.
Oh, well, on that, we're going to go to our first commercial and Weed for the People.
Out there.
We are back, you guys. Dale, there's plenty of models, bro. You just got to go to South Beach. Plenty of models down there every day.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well.
Jason Beck.
Oh, that's it? Okay. All right, fair enough.
You don't want me to say what I want to say after that text you sent me.
Well, cool. Then it is what it is. The new initiative petition would regulate Missouri marijuana hemp products the same as alcohol. The effort would repeal the 41-page constitutional amendment that legalized adult use marijuana in 2022. A coalition of Missouri hemp business leaders and advocates formally filed 4 initiative petitions Tuesday that would ask voters to allow marijuana and intoxicating hemp products to be sold in the same stores as alcohol and tobacco. The goal of the effort, led by Kansas City-based hemp business American Shaman, is to repeal the 41-page constitutional amendment that legalized adult use marijuana in 2022. Each version of the proposed initiative petition would replace the marijuana legalization amendment with language that instructs Missouri lawmakers to create regulations that are no more burdensome than what we already have for alcohol and tobacco, said Ethan Thapin, a longtime hemp lobbyist. He says, marijuana and hemp are one plant. Thampy said in an interview Tuesday, they should be regulated in the same way it should be a free, fair, and regulated market. The effort is being organized under a new political action committee called Missourians for a Single Market, and the 4 petitions differ slightly, but they each would take out criminal offenses for possessing too much marijuana. They'd also retain the current taxes on the products for at least the next 10 years and allow businesses to obtain licenses to sell the products through a similar process as they do with alcohol and tobacco products. Though a similar process as they do with alcohol and tobacco products. But currently marijuana facility licenses are limited and highly regulated, but businesses don't need a license to sell intoxicating hemp products. Despite numerous legislative attempts to outright ban them, they say in a quote, legislative efforts to ban hemp products allow the illegal market to flourish, said Gary Wingert, a retired St. Louis City police sergeant, in the group's Tuesday press release announcing the initiative petition campaign. Regulating these products and preserving legal access to the market ensures public safety by allowing business owners to serve the consumer market instead. In many ways, it's the latest showdown between the marijuana industry, which has operated legally in Missouri since 2018, but is still outlawed federally, and the hemp industry, whose products were legalized by the 2018 Farm Bill. At the end of the day, what's the difference between intoxicating hemp products and intoxicating marijuana products? Well, hemp and marijuana are essentially terms the government uses to distinguish between the part of the cannabis plant that has high amounts of THC, or their psychoactive component. Any part of the plant containing 0.3% or less THC by dry weight is defined as hemp, and that's why the 2018 Congress removed hemp and hemp seeds from the Drug Enforcement Administration's schedule of controlled substances as part of the 2018 Farm Bill. Cannabis buds, or what the industry calls flower, must be smoked or heated to release delta-9 THC that produces a high. So eating most raw cannabis flower shouldn't get someone high. There is a growing legal argument that marijuana sold in dispensaries that doesn't contain 0.3% delta-9 THC before it's smoked or heated is actually hemp, and that's because it is. But currently, a number of Missouri cannabis events where people are selling weed outside of dispensaries and are operating under that interpretation of the federal definition. The initiative petitions filed on Tuesday support this interpretation, and the effort also aims to regulate products such as edibles, beverages, and vapes that are currently being sold in gas stations and stores without testing or tracking requirements. The lack of state regulation has some municipality governments to try and find a way to regulate them through city health departments, and in a quote, they say, our position is that marijuana legalization has always been not about getting high, but to end prohibition against one of the most beneficial plants on earth, said Tim Gilo, founder of the Missouri marijuana legalization movement. Our goal is to open up a free and open market to all and prevent a monopoly from encroaching on any benefits of the cannabis plant. However, Andrew Mullins, executive director of the Missouri Cannabis Trade Association, told The Independent in June that the idea is a bait and switch. The state's regulated marijuana industry, he said, generated $241 million in state and local tax revenues last year alone and is regarded as one of the most successful marijuana programs in the county, citing a Wall Street Journal article. At a marijuana industry conference last week, company leaders agreed that limited licenses for dispensaries and grow facilities was key to Missouri's success, and voters have twice voted for cannabis regulation, and Mullins said in June, and any effort to roll back those consequential protections would be a spectacular failure. Missourians aren't about to take hundreds of millions away from local communities, veterans, and our justice system, all in hopes that politicians will eventually replace it with something down the road, Mullins said. Thampy said that tax revenue wouldn't go away and the taxable market would increase by about a third, he said, meaning tens of millions in new revenue for public defenders, substance abuse prevention, and the Missouri Veterans Commission, he said. The petitions were filed with the Missouri Secretary of State on Tuesday afternoon, and the group aims to get enough signatures by May to appear on the November 2026 ballot. Well, this should be super, super interesting, Missouri. They're trying to repeal and replace your whole system. You guys have the best system in the entire United States of America, and they want to repeal it and allow hemp to just kind of just take the center stage. And I think this seems to me, Dale, from the article, it sounds like the reason that they're trying to do this is because a bunch of the hemp guys are just going and doing like little pop-up shops selling hemp. And, you know, they're selling weed disguised as hemp. And they're like, hey, you guys are undercutting our whole market. And that sounds like this is the whole reason for this whole thing in the first place. But I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this.
Well, saying that Missouri's got the best market in the country ain't saying a lot, because no one's really got this shit figured out very well. Mm-hmm. The Farm Bill just created a whole lot of uncertainty. And within uncertainty, people just do things. And then, you know, expect their attorneys to help defend them. And in the case of, you know, these psychoactive cannabinoids, no one has a decent legal answer to it other than, you know, it's not covered. Well, what do you say now? Mm-hmm. I believe it should be treated like alcohol, that you should not have to have some specialized place to go buy, you know, an eighth of weed or a couple of pre-rolls. The voters out there, I mean, the people who vote with their pocketbooks don't give a shit. Someone pops up to sell you weed, guess what? They're buying weed from them. That should be telling people something, because the people who use their dollars to tell you what they want are buying weed wherever they can get it. And that should tell you we need to revise the system to allow people to get it like they can alcohol, because that's what they want. And people are using less alcohol today, and they want more cannabis. That's clear from their buying habits. So no one's got this figured out yet. And it's kind of irritating when you have to go back to do these initiatives again because the legislatures can't fix it. But, you know, we'll see. I mean, as you know, Jason, I'm trying to push to change these laws here in California to treat cannabis like alcohol here in California, because our system right now is upside down and backwards, and it's circling the drain, has been for a while. I don't know that Missouri has that problem. The people with the licenses right now are just upset because somebody else has an easier and cheaper track to selling weed. And, you know, I guess it's the American way. That's how we were founded. Don't tell me I can't do something, goddammit, because I'm going to go do it anyway. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Shaun, Jenny, any comments on this? I think you're on mute, Jenny. Muted. You're on mute, Jenny.
Oh, sorry. Don't they already have regulations in Missouri, that deal with people who are selling weed without a license to distribute weed? So, I mean, like, it's a company circumventing the law. Like, go ahead and just give them a fine or something and call it a day. But, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think it's unfair to take hemp operators and make them have the same restrictions and the same barriers to entry if they're using the hemp license to circumvent the licensed cannabis market. Play fair in the sandbox or go sell CBD.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in a state with a marijuana program that has THC guidelines, then you're skirting it a little bit close with hemp. And I do think, well, I really believe in this open and free market model. I do think we're going to start to see the loop on these things kind of close or become more aligned between the two. So we'll see what happens, but it's a little bit hard to make those arguments in states where it's really all about how they're defining, if they're including that total THC, if they're including THCA in their total THC counts.
I don't know. All of it, all the testing on THC is totally ridiculous. It's totally a waste of time, and you know what I mean. It's totally flawed. Anyone that puts any amount of effort or time into it is just totally ridiculous in my mind. But you know, whatever. Whatever, these guys. Well, we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he has specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet nasty. They make your teeth yellow on top of other things. But he's honest, and he's unconcerned with your opinion, public opinions, and everyone else's opinion for that matter. And he can defy gravity by showing you how he can piss up a rope. That's right, it is your favorite T.O. Loco, and you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. This is your favorite T.O. Loco, and for you, Jen, your favorite Full-of-Shiticus.
Favorite episode, Dale.
Yeah. You're looking good this morning, girl. Smile a little more. We're getting through this. We're getting through this.
I'm working. Social equity.
Oh boy, social equity.
Jason sent me some complaints and things like that about True Leaf out of Florida and asked me to cover this. So I wrote a quick article about it, and I think it's published. And I don't know if Jason has put up access to the complaints, the motions to dismiss, the motions for default, the dismissal against True Leaf from the Republican Party. But this entire mess grows out of the amendment number 3 from last year's ballot. And it was ugly. It was fought all over the place. DeSantis and the Republican Party fought against it. Democrats inside the state fought back. It was vicious. True Leaf sued the Republican Party for defamation because they claim that if this passes, all of these companies in the state are going to get monopolies, quality's going down, prices going up, and you're not going to be able to grow your own. And when True Leaf sued the Republican Party, they said, look, you're public figures. We can say what we want about you as long as we don't violate the actual malice standard in defamation, which they didn't. The Republican Party asked the court to throw it out, and there is the dismissal from the court in there. It's interesting reading, and they basically told them, take your dolls and get the hell out of here because you don't have a case. You don't get to sue. The Republican Party is a political party. They're in a political fight. What they said is true to the extent you can't home grow. That people that want to have a business, of course, want to promote their business. So they basically told True Leaf, get the hell out of here. You can't make these kind of arguments, sue for defamation. They didn't allow them to have an anti-SLAPP case, but now we move into a guy named Ganja Leaks. Nathan Jurowicz, I think is his name. I'm going to assume this is a Polish name. I'm not good with that. His name is Nathan Jurowicz. Okay. He's a blogger, goes by the name of Ganja Leaks. And last year, during this fight over Amendment 3, he published some of the same material about this is going to lead to monopolies and crappy product, higher prices, blah, blah, blah. And he had True Leaf prominently displayed over it. And then he said in blogs and on X that True Leaf is selling moldy weed, trying to poison their clients. They hire illegal aliens, kind of reminds me of Glass House out here in California. So True Leaf, through their attorneys, sent demands for retraction to this guy, Ganja Leaks. Okay? And he was playing games. He didn't really want to accept this stuff. He did admit at one point that he got one of these letters and retractions, but ultimately he didn't retract it. And True Leaf claimed it was defamatory, so they sued for defamation, I believe back in April of this year. And then Ganja Leaks proceeded to go hide from them. Now, when you're a litigator and you're trying to get service on somebody, it gets to be annoying when they hide from you. So I used to have a group of investigators that would find these son of a bitches and serve them as they're walking out of a shitter or wherever we could find them. They're served, okay? And it's a game that gets played, but it can be a costly game for you because the courts don't like you hiding from service. So they sued Ganja Leaks. Ganja Leaks hid from them. One of these process servers went to serve him, and his dad calls him up And apparently Ganja Leaks was claiming, hey, I'm going to hide from them. You're not going to get me served. We've got affidavits in there about all this games they played. Well, they couldn't get him actually served, so they did what they call substitute service. And in Florida, you're allowed to send a copy of the plaint to the Secretary of State, tell him what he's done. They accept the service, and then you send copies, the best addresses you have, and now you are served. And when you get served, now you have what the court has, what they call personal jurisdiction over you. In Florida, you got 20 days to answer, or you can be defaulted. And that's what we're looking at here. I think the official service was in July. Okay, July 22nd would have been the date that the answer would have been due, which you've got to file with the court and serve on the other side, or you can be defaulted. Well, about a month later, in August, TrueLeaf filed a motion to take a default. Okay, they didn't do it the day after. They could have. They waited about a month, but they filed a motion for a default on, I believe, the 22nd of August. And within a couple days after that, Ganja Leaks got an attorney, and they filed a motion to dismiss the case along some of the same lines the Republican Party of Florida had defended themselves against TrueLeaf. But the problem that Ganja Leaks has is that they filed a motion for default before he filed a motion to dismiss. So I'm not going to tell you that I've researched all of Florida law. But now we're in the middle of what I call pleading games. Okay, and when you file a complaint and now you have to respond, you don't have to answer. You can file a motion to dismiss, or what we call a demur. There's no cause of action here. And then you go into pleading wars, and court takes paper evidence and looks at it and see if your motion can be sustained or if it's going to be denied, and you move into, discovery, things like that. They're at the early phase here. And what Ganja Leaks has created for himself is that it wasn't like, oh, I got served and, I screwed up and it went in the wrong drawer. I forgot about it. This guy was actively hiding from service of process. So, in my opinion, he's got some problems trying to defend a request for a default here, because he was told that he needed to retract this. He was on notice that this was coming. He hid actively from them for months. When they finally got subservice on him, he was over a month late in responding, and in the meantime, they asked the court to default him. And when you get a default granted, you can no longer defend yourself. Whatever they ask for in that complaint, you get. Now, one of the problems here is they didn't really specify the amount of damages they suffered. Okay? And the other problem they have is that TrueLeaf has been determined by the courts to be a public figure. And when you're a public figure, the line for defamation is just much different. The bar is much higher. You not only do you have to say something that's not true, and that is defamatory, but you've got to know it's false, or you have to be reckless with respect to its falsity. Okay? And that's where the Republican Party TrueLeaf's asked. It's like, part of this is true, we know that, and substantial truth is a defense, and you're a public figure, so you've got to prove by clear and convincing evidence that we knew it was false, or that we were reckless with respect to its falsity. They couldn't prove it, so they're thrown out of court. But for this guy Ganja Leaks to get to that argument, he's got to get past the games he played in hiding from the court, or hiding from process, and now he's in a potential default situation. So as we go forward here, I will watch and see how TrueLeaf responds and how Ganja Leak responds, and then they have a hearing. What is the result of that? Because what this guy actually said about TrueLeaf, in my opinion, is concerning, because he named them by name. He said something about them that, if it's not true, affects their business. Okay? And if he did not have some reason to believe this was true, and he was reckless with respect to whether it was true, he can get spanked pretty good for saying things like this about a business. But on the flip side, TrueLeaf did not really tell us how they were harmed. And that's a problem they have. Oh, it hurt my reputation. Well, too bad. The law doesn't protect your feelings. You know, if you're a snowflake, stay out of the fucking court system because we don't protect your feelings. Okay, you got to be specific about how you were damaged by something somebody said about you that you claim wasn't true. And we've got some of this floating around right now, the national level with a little birthday card. The president claims he didn't sign. He sued for defamation. So we'll see some of these same sort of issues pop up in that case. But I don't really have a good prognostication how it's going to turn out. I think that Ganja Leaks has some problems because he screwed around and hid. But I don't know that TrueLeaf is going to get all that they want here. I'm going to throw this back at you guys because this gets in the weeds. What happens with law, you get in the weeds, it gets real goddamn boring. You got to pass a joint to someone to keep talking to them because at some point you lose them. And it's just too goddamn boring. I'm going to throw it back at you guys. What do you think about this?
Wow.
Not boring at all, Dale.
I mean, so it sounds like his big problem with all this was not being servable, so to say. But and you gave a great description of what the law is, Dale, as far as their process if you can't find someone to be served, because I that was one of the questions that I had is because when I've spoken with him, he says, hey, they never served me properly because they never served it to where I live. But you're shaking your head, you're like, no, that's not how it works, you know what I mean? So that is very, very interesting, but at the same time too, I feel like isn't a lot of what he said, covered under the First Amendment as far as free speech?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
You have a free speech right, especially when it's a political issue, a public interest issue, and you're actively involved or you put yourself in the middle of it. Now, you can pretty much say what you want about people as long as there's a kernel of truth, or it's purely sarcastic. No one would ever believe you were speaking truth about things. Mm-hmm. That's how Saturday Night Live and all these other programs get away with saying scandalous shit because no one believes it's a true statement. Mm-hmm. This guy Ganja Leaks made a couple of specific statements that attack the business TrueLeaf. So it changes it a bit from free speech to you don't get to actively lie about somebody and know you're lying about them or don't have any reason to believe it's true and then just say, oh, it's my First Amendment right. There are some limitations there, although it gets a little bit dicey and it gets very expensive. And that's what these anti-SLAPP cases are all about. If it's meritless and you just file to shut somebody up, they'll dismiss your claim and make you pay attorney's fees. Mm-hmm. And we'll see if this all comes up in this case or in any of the other notorious defamation cases that have been filed out there. And, there just isn't a clear, easy answer. Hell, they called John Adams a hermaphrodite back in the first, presidential campaign back in the 1790s. And it's like, what do you say? Well, am I a hermaphrodite? No. But I'm out there in the public arena, and they can say pretty much whatever they want about me.
Yeah, funny you bring up that story because I was wondering because to me it seems like it's a little bit almost like the Candace Owens Macron lawsuit. Are you familiar with that, Dale? Okay,
no.
so Candace Owens came out saying that or having some type of evidence or whatnot that the president of France, Macron, is his wife is actually his grandfather as a tranny. Okay. And this has been going on the internet for a while now. And then they filed a lawsuit against her trying to silence Candace on this whole topic. And then she got all mad because she's like, how is people in France filing a lawsuit in the U.S. to prohibit my First Amendment freedom of speech and whatnot. And Candace recently put out another video, and it's super, super interesting because apparently Macron was at the White House, and he was there. He was like, hey, hey, Mr. President, do you know this girl Candace? Can you have her can you have her stop talking about my wife? Right. And so
for Obama, there's a new
and he tried saying, hey, it's making it difficult with me trying to get a deal done with Ukraine and Russia for this peace treaty and da 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 da. He's like, I just need you to just stop talking about it for a while or whatnot. But ultimately, Candace was ready to take this whole case to court and go to go into deposition and whatnot, and then once it came to that, the Macrons they dropped the case because probably because when it goes to that part, you know what I mean, they're going to be some hard evidence, in more than one way or another.
I'd love to see that discovery.
Exactly.
We got a super chat. We got a super chat, bud.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Did we have a super? Yeah. Oh, we did have a super chat.
Seriously.
Super chat, yeah.
We did have a super chat. We got a super chat from Jenny Beth Dills. She says, I'm signing Jason Beck up to read books during Children's Hour at the Huntington Beach Library if anyone wants to attend. She says her F-bombs are subsidized by this super chat, but her F-bombs are not subsidized by this super chat, and she needs to calm down and quit it.
Yeah. That's funny.
Mm-hmm. That's cute. That's cute, Jenny Beth. Thank you for the super chat, Jenny Beth.
I think the thing about with this, back to the Ganja Leak story, we're gonna make like very big statements, and because sometimes there were some posts that were made where it would implicate certain parties that you knew if you were doing any lobbying in some of the states, you're like, I know that those guys aren't bad guys. So sometimes our social media folks who get really excited about trying to be journalists. Also, by the way, journalists get sued all the time. So there's not protection. You have to be factual if you're doing it as journalism. And then if you're doing it as an opinion or, this kind of new journalism that we do, which is opinion editorial, really, with some facts sprinkled in. But if you're going to do that, you better have the bank account to get sued because it's gonna happen. So even if, the thing about the avoiding, like Dale, you were telling the story about how they were avoiding the service, and it's just like, the e-file service, there's so many easy rules. That if that is your strategy, it's not going to work very long, and you need to really get some resources because they're just
depends on what state. I think it depends on what state you're in, Shaun. Florida
Sometimes
obviously wouldn't, but other states, if you can't get served, you're not going to court if they can't find you.
But some places, I don't know, they can, and there's ways. Like Dale explained. But I think ultimately, if you're going to pick these fights, you better have some backup resources because sometimes you don't even get to court. You just get buried in the pretrial stuff with your attorney's fees, and you lose. You get out litigated. It's not even if it goes to court or gets heard. It's getting out litigated most of the time.
Well, that's what the anti-SLAPP suits are all about. Because it used to happen that someone with a big checkbook bring his lawyers in and sue you and then drown you. The purpose was to drown you, and it's very expensive to litigate. Once you hire me and the case is in court, you start questioning my bills, and I'm going to walk away from you. Fuck you, man. It takes a lot of my time to do this, and you don't get to just sit around and tap your toes. You've got to be on top of it. And it's easy to run into the multiple six figures defending this. So states began to pass anti-SLAPP that if there's no merit to the case being brought for defamation, okay, and it's being primarily brought to shut you up, and they will dismiss the SLAPP case, and then they will award attorney's fees. And that's increasingly now becoming the stick that they give to a defendant. Hey, you sue me, I'm going to do the anti-SLAPP suit, and then when it's dismissed, you're going to pay all my attorney's fees. Now, there's some people enough money doesn't matter to them, but it can be expensive, and it stops some of the frivolous cases being filed just to shut somebody up. It's going on right now. I mean, the Trump case against Rupert Murdoch is exactly one of these defamation type of cases. And you know, you're looking at this stuff going, okay, you're all public figures, you're a broadcasting medium.
Yep.
And now the level, it's got to be clear and convincing evidence that either Murdoch knew this was false or that he was reckless with respect to being false. And I looked at that signature and went, you know, good luck convincing a jury of that.
Well, you know,
it's going to work out.
You know, just to that point too, Dale. You know, Newsmax just recently won their lawsuit against the Dominion voting system lawsuit that they had there from the 2016 election, or excuse me, the 2020 election.
Okay.
So that was another. That was
$750 million to settle. Suit against Dominion.
The Newsmax got a huge check. Huge check.
You know what? I think Kim Rivers needs to worry about the fact that she's in a little bit of trouble over her failure to pay taxes the way that she was supposed to, and all the lawsuits that are levied against her. But the fact that she's more concerned about somebody giving her some bad press and publicity than she is about employees dying because of the shitty conditions in her facilities says more than it needs to about Trulieve. And you guys are able to vote with your dollars, so I would implore anyone in the state of Florida to do that.
I think Jenny, you summed that whole story up right there, 100% right there. And just so you know, Ganja Leaks did reach out to us and asked if we could help support him in regards with his legal defense. So if you do wish to do that, there is a link in the description of this video for you to be able to go and donate to his cause. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months.
I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me.
We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created.
Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees?
All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
Back, you guys. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. But I also, too, tomorrow is 9/11, and so we want to make sure that we're in remembrance of this horrific tragedy that happened 24 years ago. And we are doing a special 9/11 tribute video. I have Congressman Kurt Weldon, who did an interview with Tucker Carlson and a number of other different high-level podcasters, where I sit down and talk with him for over 2 hours, and alongside with Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, and they both had inside information on 9/11 before 9/11, and so you guys are definitely going to want to check this episode out. We are attempting to release it tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Central Time. and 2 p.m. Eastern time. It'll premiere here on High at 9 News YouTube channel, Rumble, and I think we may possibly try to upload it to X, but we're not sure if that's if it's gonna work. But nonetheless, we hope you guys enjoy it. You check it out. It's gonna be about 3 hours long, so make sure it's gonna be it's so much great information in there. I can't wait for you guys to check it out.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfer, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
We are back. Stop. Oh, no, not that part. We're going to roll right in to what's going on, Shaun?
Oh, just Jason, it was about the story that I'm going to cover. Abbott dropped the executive order.
Oh, well, hold on. Well, hold on. Well, you're about to go into your whole story, so you can go into that because we're going to roll right into Miss Shaun Salvaje. Shaun is a mom. She's a veteran. And she's a conflict mediator that can keep your ass out of court before you get sued like some of the other people who are floating around the cannabis space. That's right. It is none other than Miss Shaun Salvaje.
Yay. I like to stay out of court as much as possible. Well, guys, my story today was going to be about, it was from the Texas Tribune, and it was the expectation that Governor Abbott would be releasing an executive order to address hemp and cannabis in Texas. So we've been waiting for a few days to know what was going to happen. The big news dropped publicly yesterday that something was going to happen with an executive order. And this morning at 9:30, we actually do have the executive order. So I do have that story link. I'll also give Jason a link to the executive order so you guys can read that. And we are going to just dive right in because it was a night of celebration. Champs is happening in Austin. A lot of people are feeling really good. I know I woke up in a great mood, had a wonderful event last night. And unfortunately, though, we're waking up this morning to a cold cup of coffee because the executive order from Governor Abbott, while we were hoping and expecting, we're told it would be a simple age gate, it's a little more complicated than that. So he does have a proclamation where he issues a bunch of whereas statements, which are basically like opening arguments. Dale, you'll love it, where he kind of gives you the background and context of what happened this legislative session, how many House bills were proposed and rejected. And this is what will help him to build the argument for whatever he puts into the executive order. So he's explaining ahead of time. Read the whereas section. It's going to give you your context clues. But I'm going to get to the meat of what we are looking at here is he vetoed Senate Bill 3. And this is where at the bottom of page 1, I become concerned, Texas. We were really excited. We were celebrating wins. We still got work to do. It's not over yet. Whereas on June 22nd, 2025, I, Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, vetoed Senate Bill 3, 89th Texas Legislature regular session, because it would not have provided a legally sustainable prohibition on access to hemp-derived products by children and did not respect the responsible consumption and liberty of adults to access a lawful product that can be made safe through proper regulation, responsible consumption, and a banned commodity made legal by federal law. He does cite the Farm Bill in his earlier statements. But then he says, whereas in the accompanying veto statement, I recommended a detailed approach to regulation that sought to prevent children from accessing consumable hemp products, good, while respecting the liberty of adults, great, like the proposals up for debate in House Bill 309. What? No, no, go stay away from 309. I feel like in Billy Madison when he's like shaking the kid, like stay in kindergarten. So we've got 309 on this document. No good. If you'll recall, 309 was sort of an edibles carve out. So we got to fix a couple things there. So what does this executive order do? It does immediately restrict sales to children. That's good. 21 plus. That'll take a lot of wind out of the sails of Dan Patrick and friends who were really just worried about the kids, or so they said. We've been calling as an industry for an age gate for quite some time. So we're looking at age gate, sensitive place restrictions, including prohibition on stores within 1,000 feet of schools, churches, playgrounds, homeless shelters, and substance abuse facilities, treatment facilities, as well as local option elections to prohibit retail sales, which is too bad because the legislature was trying to avoid that, local prohibitions. So, and then impose product safety rules. So product safety testing, potency, and they will come up with rules. Rules, potency limits per serving and per package based in milligrams rather than based on percentage of concentration, and testing at every stage from harvest to shelf. So these are some pretty big rules here. These are going to be important rules, some of them much needed, but unfortunately, when they're layered with things like HB 309 and handing over some authorities to TABC, which this does look to do, we have some questions. So I think what we need to do is continue to stay united as a whole community. It's been incredible. It's been very powerful. It's moved the needle this far. This football game's not over. We're in the fourth quarter now, apparently. I know everybody was looking forward to taking some time off and resting, but that's not going to happen right now. We need to continue to reach out now to the governor's office and make sure that we're influencing the policy that will be crafted. And they're going to start with 309. So start sending your red lines and your edits for 309, or all the reasons why that one doesn't work or how we can improve it, because it's not going to be what we're hoping for. And then the other thing, guys, is that earlier story about hemp. I do still feel Texas is a meter for the nation, whether we're talking about cannabis, hemp, or anything really. It's the third coast. It matters. It carries a lot of weight, especially politically. And they are going to start including they're going to include THCA and total THC counts. So we need to have that conversation. We need to make sure that we're protecting flower, protecting our growers, and getting certain language into whatever rules are made and signed into power over the next couple of years, so we can protect what we already have, because it's definitely worth fighting for. And then we'll see what happens when it comes to federal. I think right now they'll do this. They'll start the committees to make the rules. They won't fully make the rules, but everybody should be on their toes and make sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted and you are paying attention, because there should be a lot of activity this fall as it relates to any kind of searches and seizures to make sure you're within compliance. So don't be that guy who gets caught when we're so close to the end here.
Don't get caught. Yeah. Don't get caught.
309, guys, it's here again. So we're going to have to figure out what we can do with that. And thank you so much to everyone behind 309. Thank you. You kind of fucked everybody, but
yeah. Man. 309. I mean, I feel like they should have just billed it 304. That would have been a better number for it. You know what I'm saying, Dale?
Yeah. A ratchet 304.
Yeah, right? Ratchet 304, exactly. Oh man, Texas, man!
I love that Dale knows what that means.
I know.
So much.
Trust me, it brought joy to my heart too, Jenny. It brought,
Hey, I met a few in my day. I actually caught a couple of them and got married, and it's like, holy.
The ratchet ones, Dale, you got to stay away from the ratchet ones. You can't turn a 304 into a housewife. 304s don't act right.
Yeah, I understand. My radar's on for them now.
Yep.
Like all the women in my life, if some woman tries to flirt with me, they're like, "Fuck do you want from this old guy?"
They only know how to clean one thing, Dale.
Well, I'm an old bachelor now, so just leave me alone.
Well, Governor Abbott just released this. This is an executive order that he released, right, Shaun? That you sent over, and we'll hyperlink this in the article link, so the people, if they want to read it from the website, they can check it out. But I guess we were expecting more. He is calling for age gating, and I think it's interesting that he's still trying to, instead of just flexing his legislative power, to still have something go through the legislature, it sounds like, through this executive order. Am I correct on that?
Oh yeah. So we thought maybe this would be the best way to go through, because hopefully he would only do an age gate, some testing, and it's simple. And that, of course, would have been the best model to continue this open Texas market the way that it has unfolded and has really succeeded. Unfortunately, I just think people want to get their hands on that honeypot, and they're going to try to control and regulate it. There's also going to be influence, because you see that they've restricted teacup. Even in the teacup, new applicants, they're having issues. They don't want more than one cultivation site. So we have this chance at something really incredible in Texas. I think we're going to just slowly sabotage ourselves. But it's not going to be, I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet. I do think that he will come up with something reasonable. Even though I really hate the design of 309, I have been told that they're willing to have more conversations. And in his executive order, he does say that dishes and TABC will start rulemaking and start coming up with process. That will take time. So nothing will, except for the age gate and the rules about schools, will happen immediately. Then these other things will start to become defined. And so the next year is about being a part of that definition process and trying to protect this as much as possible.
Interesting. Well, Brian Dombrowski in the chat, he says that he's coming in late, but he says this is calling for the immediate rulemaking for age gating and for the review of the rest. And so he says that we are good. And so, Brian has been following this whole thing along closely. He even had a meeting with Governor Abbott as well, discussing this. So, he definitely has his hand on the pulse with what they're doing over there. So that's the great perspective, Brian. Thanks for that comment. And ultimately, I think really Governor Abbott, where he stands, is he just wants to make sure that it's not getting into the hands of kids, and that there's proper age gating, and some testing requirements for that matter, for the most part, and just wants it done in a sensible manner. And the fortunate part is that he does not want it to be he doesn't want his legacy, to be a situation, and in all of this too, I just got a text from Texas, and one of our sponsors, QUX, they have the QUX Pay, and he's saying that they have been working with Texas to create a Texas Pay as the solution that they're handing over as part of it to TABC, which is their liquor control board. And he says they're going to have to separate the money in regards with this, with how these transactions go forward. And so that's going to be an interesting thing. So QUX, we wish you much luck with that Texas Pay, and hopefully it'll help everyone in Texas have a much better day with Texas Pay.
Oh wow!
You like that? Right. You like that, Jenny? I figured you liked it.
We are. What's our last commercial?
We're gonna go to our last commercial right now, Jenny Beth. I was just queuing up for it, and I could see it all in your face.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, And I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where am I even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
And we are back, and I have two final short little
I'm
stories.
giving you an intro, so shh.
Look, I'm so used to not getting intros from you, so sorry.
The highest member of the Communist Party of China.
What?
And the head honcho with the High at 9 News.
Never a commie.
Yeah.
Never that.
The czar of censorship, Jason Beck.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute, Jenny Beth. Cute.
I thought Jenny was spicy when I first signed on, but she's pretty funny today.
We just, you just got to get with the program sometimes, Shaun. You know what I'm saying? You can't take life so seriously all the time, Shaun. That's all. You know what I mean?
I was having a good morning.
Be more like Dale. Be more like Dale. You know what I'm saying? He's a big fan of 304s. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. Clayton County, Georgia, you guys.
Yeah, got to sheep dip them.
Yeah, sheep dipping for sure. Sheep dip. Damn, that's good. Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
I was an old foreman during the Vietnam War.
Yep.
We had to come up with solutions.
Yep. That's right. Solutions matter. Because in Clayton County, Georgia, here's a solution. The Clayton County Board of Commissioners approved a new ordinance to decriminalize possession of marijuana, you guys, under certain circumstances. The decriminalization effort was proposed by Clayton County Police Chief Kevin Roberts in August as a way to provide alternatives to jail time for certain offenses. Channel 2 Action News previously reported when the proposal was presented to the commissioners, and with Roberts telling the board the item would only apply to cases where less than 1 ounce of marijuana was found. As passed, the ordinance classifies the possession of less than 1 ounce of marijuana as an ordinance violation rather than a criminal offense, and the charge means jail time is not on the table as a punishment for the offense, and the county can issue a $150 civil violation fine. The county will also redirect offenders to community resources for education and recovery, and according to the text of the ordinance. Clayton County officials confirmed the ordinance was approved and is now in effect. Well, this is great news for residents of Clayton County, Georgia. Yeah, this is great news. Now,
it means, Jason, it means they're sick of fucking doing all the paperwork because you wanted to smoke a joint on Friday night.
Well, I think more than that. I think more than that is there's a lot of real crime out there in Georgia, and it allows them to free up and focus on that. Not to mention, this is a great win for citizens that want to consume cannabis, knowing that they're if they get caught with cannabis, it's not going to impact them negatively in like job searches and catching different types of cases that they'll have to, miss work for, or possibly have to disclose during a job interview. I think this is fantastic news for the residents of this county. This is a great step forward in the progression.
No, it's super helpful. And Clayco's right outside Atlanta, so they do actually have real crime.
Yes, exactly. See? A real crime.
And there's the problem. There is real crime out there.
Exactly.
I'm talking about what we in the law call malum in se crimes that involve moral turpitude, lying, cheating, stealing, using violence to get what you want from people. Those are the crimes to focus on. If you're a drug addict stealing copper, well, maybe you should have some problems for stealing.
Yeah.
But your real problem is you're a drug addict, and sending people to jail does not fix drug addiction.
Yep.
So and it's the beat cops, and I've represented these beat cops. I've talked to them many times about this. And if you get an incentive to arrest somebody for weed, and you're getting pats on the back for it, they'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
But when it's a pain in the ass to do the paperwork on it, and they understand that there's people out there every day that are killing each other, robbing, beating people up, assaulting them. And you're going to fuck with somebody because they're smoking a joint?
Yep.
You tell them, move along. You take it from them, and they used to do us. They just take your weed and dump it in the trash, and tell you to move on because they don't want to fuck with the paperwork.
Yep. Yep. I feel you. Yep. Well, this shout out to everyone in Georgia. This is going to be a big benefit to the community, and hopefully more communities will adopt a similar policy out there. But I'm going to roll into our final story. Unless you had something you wanted to share on that, Shaun, before I move on.
No, I think that's great.
All right.
Penalties are, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Let the law enforcement actually do real criminal work, because it will make them happy. It will make the people happy.
Yes.
And we can all be.
Make the people happy, because it's all about the weed for the people. But now this is, yes, and this is a follow-up story to a story that we previously covered on High at 9 News a while ago. I wonder if any of you guys will remember this, because a former state employee sentenced for issuing herself a medical marijuana card, you guys. That's right. A former South Dakota Department of Health employee was sentenced to 2 years of probation. You thought I was going to say jail, and a $500 fine Tuesday in Hughes County Court for illegally issuing herself a medical marijuana card. That's right. Alexandra Feener, 24, of Prairie, pleaded guilty earlier to one felony count of offering a false or forged instrument for filing, registering, or recording. The crime occurred in March of 2024, and by issuing a card to herself, Finer illegally avoided both the medical provider certification requirement and the required fee. She received a suspended imposition of sentence, which means she'll avoid 2 years in prison if she abides by the terms of her probation. Finer's case is one of 6 that Attorney General Marty Jackley has prosecuted against former state employees since last year for allegations related to their work for state government. And in a quote, "There are 14,000 state government employees in South Dakota, and the overwhelming majority work hard for South Dakota," Jackley said Tuesday in a news release. "The behavior of one should not reflect poorly on the majority." The other 5 cases ranged from illegal use of a foster family food voucher for a state employee's own expenses to the stealing of $1.8 million from the Department of Social Services over the course of 13 years. In response to the run of prosecutions, Jackley supported a package of 4 bills passed during this year's legislative session that expanded the investigative authority of the state auditor, strengthened the Board of Internal Controls, and insulated mandatory reporting requirements for state employees and penalties for failing to report, and established protections for whistleblowers. Governor Gary Roden signed an executive order in April mandating the creation of a secure standard reporting mechanism for employees, and the portal delivers whistleblower reports of malfeasance to the state's auditor and attorney general. Lawmakers also passed legislation this year strengthening the ability of the legislature's Government Operations and Audit Committee to conduct investigations and issue orders known as subpoenas requiring people to testify or supply information. And last year, then Governor Kristi Noem added an additional internal control officer position to the executive branch and ordered state employees to undergo annual training aimed at preventing criminal activity, you guys. Well, South Dakota. I guess you don't want to submit fraudulent documents to South Dakota because you're going to get prosecuted, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
She's stupid. Yeah. She's effing stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And like, honestly, maybe we shouldn't have 24-year-olds in that position because, 24-year-olds are often effing stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, like, this is absolutely ridiculous. She's falsifying document. And if she did it for herself, how many people paid her to do it?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that may be a whole nother investigation that comes up from this. And the C-word threw in a super chat. He says, "God damn, I forgot Hall of Flowers has already started. Y'all are just too entertaining and informative." Well, thank you very much, C-word. We appreciate that. We're glad we're entertaining you today. Most definitely.
No, I like that Detective Jenny Beth is on too, though.
Yeah.
Because like, why would you do this? This is so dumb. What is like $150? You could get your doc. This is like so easy. Why? And but now if she was doing it, not saying, but it makes sense if she's just adding herself to another list. Like,
how many other people did she do this for? That's a fantastic question, and I wonder if the investigator, the attorney general has investigated this, because I'm willing to bet they haven't.
I mean, they probably audited her records, but let's find out, or they will find out. And this is the thing. That's why when you work for the government, don't do shit like that. There are inspector generals, there are audits, there are different mechanisms. They don't always trigger right away, but they do eventually.
Yep.
It's why. Mm-hmm. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's crazy. I am so with you on that, Shaun. Dale, any final words before we move on?
Well, if it's just her. Mm-hmm. If I was the DA, I would consider deferred entry of judgment because she's young and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It was just her doing this. Let her serve her probation. If she does get in trouble, and drop the charges and not give her a permanent record. But if she's been doing this for anybody else, then, bring the hammer down on her.
Throw the book, right?
Corruption in government is a problem.
Yep.
And, you shouldn't be letting people off lightly. I mean, she's 24. When I was 24, I was married with 2 kids. So,
yeah,
like at some point, you don't get to be stupid. And if you're in a position to do this and you start doing it, I really don't want to hear you say, "Oh, it was a mistake I made." No, it wasn't a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Manipulated the system. It was fraud. If you did it for money. Now we're talking about crimes involving moral turpitude.
Yep.
Okay. And that's a whole different story. And, criminal laws are, nauseating for me because there's a lot of crimes I wouldn't punish, but there's some I'd be the executioner.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I was the judge, I would be a hanging judge for a lot of this shit.
Yeah.
And just wouldn't prosecute things that the law just can't fix.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically the war on drugs. They can't stop this. But if you lie, cheat, steal, hurt people, I have no sympathy for you.
Yeah.
You're going to be taking my boot out of your ass.
Yep.
If I get a hold of you.
I'm with it, Dale. You know what I mean? I'm with you all the way on that. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day, and Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai are somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. Yep.